Hi, I'm Kenneth WAJDA. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome back to my first in a series of this new show, Inspiring Photography for the New Year. So today I'm going to talk about a photo technique that I've used to make a handful of street photographs. And I find that it's a way to shoot something very unobtrusively because you are a fleeting photographer. You're shooting in very much of you're disappearing from the subject very quickly because you're shooting out of a car window. So this photograph is there's a link to it below so you can see it much bigger. And this photograph is of Las Vegas. And it's Las Vegas on a Sunday morning. And I find that, to me, capturing some of the people who live in a place outside of the normal glamorous version that you see on the Strip. This is right next to the Strip. In fact, that's Las Vegas City Hall, City of Las Vegas City Hall right there in the upper left corner. And to me, that photograph has a lot to say about Vegas because this shows some of the real people without the glamour, without the flashing lights. This is on a Sunday morning in old downtown Las Vegas, which surprisingly you cannot get a cup of coffee because there's nothing open. And as much as I wanted to spend money in the downtown, there wasn't, in the old downtown, in the original Vegas, there was nothing. And I ended up having to go to like a Panera Bread because it's the only thing that was open outside of that area. But while I was in that area, I was sitting at a traffic light and I had a 50mm lens, manual focus lens on my camera. And what I did with that was these folks were standing outside the right window of my car. And I focused on them in the car and I shot a few frames out my window, actually before I was moving. But when I knew the light was going to turn green, that if they did see me, they weren't going to go, hey, what the hell are you doing? But I wanted to just capture their moment and that umbrella and that whole street corner and the man in the wheelchair and just get that whole moment in that space. And with the 50, I could shoot right through my window and you don't even see my window. In the next photo that I'll talk about, this one was also done with the same technique. This one was shot in Rochester, New York. And it's three businessmen on a corner. And in this photograph, I was sitting at a traffic light and I wanted to turn left and I got an arrow to turn left. And they were standing in that upper left corner, at the upper left corner of the intersection, probably waiting to cross once the turning traffic got through. And I saw them, so I had a 20mm, I pre-focused at 15 or 30 feet, something, distant. And as I drove through that intersection, I just put the camera out the car window and up to the right window. So there may have been a slight crop to make sure there was no element of the car window in that photograph, or I may have pushed it all the way out that I actually got the whole frame. But the point is, I want to capture people in their environment. And in passing, you can do that. And sometimes those corners show like some of the mundaneness of a person and a group of people in a town, but it also has some interesting characters. Those three businessmen, they just seem like they each have a story, and I like their body language, I like their ties, I like their clothing and all that whole. So, it's like you're looking for little moments to define things. And for me, street photography is about documenting, probably mostly, not to put into galleries and sell, because I don't think there's a whole lot of people buying street photography, but to create a body of work that in 30 years people will say, I really want to go back to 2018 because here it is almost 2050 and I want to see what was it like in the teens. That's a fascinating thing to be able to go back. That's why photographs now, if you shot them in the 80s or the 70s, they're valuable now. Some of them may not be the greatest photographs, but the time is what we're looking at. We're looking at photographs in a separation of time, and there's a great value to being able to go back and see that. And if you look at the work of Fred Herzog, if you look at the work of Gary Winogrand, if you look at Vivian Meyer's work, you're going back in time and you're seeing not just the people that they photograph, but the places and the cars and the environment. And that's what those kind of photographs are for me. And if you can't get onto the sidewalk, you can't, pound the pavement for a good hour and go do some street on a given day. If you have your camera next to you, exposure's already set, you can use it out your car window and maybe still get a photograph. And so I try to use that as a daily. The camera's always on my car seat, and I'm always ready to turn it on and put it out the window. With that 20 millimeter with back button focus setup, it's literally point and shoot, and I can always guarantee results from that. I like shooting that way. I like the quickness of that, and that's one of those techniques. Again, if you can add it to your arsenal, you might find some photographs that you enjoy from having documented something very much in passing. And then the last component of this project, this new series that I'm working on, is for you to contribute. So for the next week or so, if you get out there and you take some photographs using your car window and using passing corners as your inspiration, if you put photographs down into the links below, I'll give critique and we'll talk about what works for me, what doesn't. It's all very subjective, but I'll give you my opinion of how things are working and what you've created and what works and what doesn't. And if that's something that you'd be interested in participating in, get out there, get shooting, choose your best shot and put it down in the links below. For the next week or 10 days, I'll try to get on those and take a look at those. And this series is going to be a weekly series. I'll publish one every Saturday, and the first one came out on Tuesday of Christmas, and going forward there'll be a weekly series. And I look forward to talking more photography with you. I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad I had a chance to kind of go out there and make some more photographs, get some new ideas, and now we're back, we're talking photographs. Take a look at the links below to see the photographs that I'm discussing in this video. And if you're enjoying these, please hit the subscribe button. Join us. If you can support with Patreon, please do. There's a link to all that below, and your support is probably the one thing that I really hope I can count on going forward. And I want to make great photography, and I want to talk photography, and I want to make everybody inspired, and I want to have a dialogue back and forth. I try to answer all comments. Thanks so much for watching. Here's the good light.